Welcome back to the Joe Mack podcast. I have a very special group of gentlemen that have joined me today. I served in the military with these guys in no other branch than the United States Marine Corps. This was about 15 years ago when we first crossed paths, so I'm happy to be with all these gentlemen. Guys, thank you so much for being with me today.
Yeah.
Let's do this. We have six guys on, obviously. Brady, we'll start with you. If we could all just share a little bit about ourselves, just a little introduction. For example, I obviously I'm Joey McAvoy, host of the Joe Mack podcast, and I served 5 years in the Marines. And Brady, you want to kick us off next?
Yeah, my name's Mark Brady. I served 8 years in the Marine Corps. I'm from the Midwest, up in Michigan. Went to boot camp out in San Diego. Did a few years with some of these Cracker Jacks, and wound up back up in northern Michigan. Now I work for UPS, and life is good. Three kids and a wife.
3 wives.
Three wives and a kid.
3 wives and a kid.
Polygamist.
Thank you, Brady. We'll do a kind of a round robin. Jimmy, joining us from Atlanta, Georgia.
Yep. Jimmy Grignon. I was in the Marine Corps with these fine gentlemen from 04 to 08. And I'm a Capricorn. I like long walks on the beach.
He does.
Yeah. So all good, man. Stationed out in Camp Lejeune. First tour was on the float with all you guys. And then a few of us hopped over to Afghanistan for the second tour. So glad to be back with you.
Thank you for being with us, Jimmy. Tommy Fowler joining us from Georgia as well. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, my man. Yep. Come to you from the mountains of Georgia, a little bit above Jimmy. Again, Camp Lejeune, where I met all you guys. I'm currently an engineer for Lasercraft Technologies right now. But yeah, wife, 2 kids. A little bit of farm out here, living this country life.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you. Dominique Chavez joining us from the West Coast.
Beautiful fucking Southern California. I'm in Laguna Niguel. It's where I met my wife. I've been here for like 10 years. I stayed in for almost 15 years. I screwed up my back pretty bad. Fucking had a few surgeries. During the time, finally they said, hey man, like, we're gonna medically evaluate you. Your back's fucked up again. You already had surgery, it won't hurt you. So I got out of the Marine Corps, medically retired, 100% through the VA, just chilling, man, living life, becoming an avid fisherman, fucking working on a fucking fishing apparel brand at the moment, fucking going to school, fucking pursuing a business degree.
Hashtag fresh ones.
Those fucking benefits. Living the life, man. 3 daughters. Still trying for a boy, but I might have to fucking call Fowler over to get that shit done. I don't know.
I can make it happen.
Attaboy.
Dominique, thank you for being with us, man. And then last but not least, how can we, drum roll please, Mr. Estrada, how are you, sir?
Good. That's Ruel Estrada from Calexico, California. I've been in the Marine Corps for 15 years. Currently still serving as a federal employee, small business owner. And I'm just thankful being here with all these gentlemen right here. Man, it's good to see you guys again.
Yeah, man.
Good to see you, man.
Doesn't feel like too long. Does it feel like 15 years ago to you guys?
No. It's insane.
Yeah. Feels like a lot less time. One thing I would like to kind of start with, we crossed paths in 05. Just to kind of paint the picture, I just was kind of curious if we could I wanted to get some information from you guys, like what prompted you to join the military, and then what made you decide that the Marine Corps was the path that you wanted to take, that was the branch of service that you wanted to get into? Whoever wants to start, go ahead, have at it.
Go ahead, Brady.
Well, I would say that there's some commonalities between all of us in just the types of people that we are. We love our countries. We love our families. We love everything that that we are as a people. And not to get too, down in the weeds with that type of conversation, we felt the need, or at least I did, to do something maybe bigger or different than the norm. And I guess the most extreme way that I could think of doing that was to go into a branch like the Marine Corps. Now, I actually took my ASVAB with an Army recruiter out in Wisconsin when I was in a year of college in between Madison and Milwaukee at a small Christian college out there. And I took the ASVAB with the Army recruiter, and the Marine recruiter saw me walking out of there one day, and he's like, "You get over here for a minute. Come on over here for a minute." He chatted it up with me for a little bit, and he took me in and showed me his little picture of, book pictures and all this stuff. So, I'm 19-year-old kid. But I wound up back here, ended up not going in at that time. My cousin, at the same time that I had gone and done my ASVAB and things like that, he was going through the same process, but in Michigan, and actually went overseas, did join. And he was killed in an IED blast in Iraq during the I think it was the second invasion of Fallujah. He was a motor transport operator and was killed. And I think that lit the fire again. And at that point, I had a couple years behind me to figure out that I didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. And at that point, I think I just said, you know what? If I don't do this now, I'm going to be the guy when I'm 50 years old saying, I wish I had, and I don't want that. So maybe that's one good decision I've made in my life. I've made a few others, but in between, I'd say I was a pretty spirited, reckless young man, just going out to find some guidance. And that's kind of the Marine Corps way. They bring you in, they break you down and make you part of the team. And, 15 years later, I'm sitting here looking at 5 faces that I would jump off a cliff for. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the type of bond we have. That's just, I think, the type of people that we are, just to be part of something, be the doers of a bigger thing. And for me, that's what it was. We had some good times, had some tough times, but that's the short version, I suppose. You could talk about it for hours.
Wow, Mark, thank you for sharing that. I mean, yeah, everybody has a different kind of path that they take, a different reason. And it's good to know, I mean, because this is the thing that we all have in common. And that's why we're on the call together, is because we shared an experience and time together. Who wants to go next?
Go ahead, Fowler.
Well, I mean, my story of joining the Marine Corps is a little short. I graduated high school and went out with my buddies that night, and I came home, that next morning, and I walked up on the front porch, and my pops was out there because he gets up pretty early, and he said, "Son, I'm proud of you, for finishing school." And I said, "Thank you, Dad." And he said, "Well, you got 1 year to get out of my house." So I was sitting there thinking, I mean, I'm working at a grocery store just out of high school, and I wasn't ready to go to college. So I got to thinking about it, and I had an uncle in the Air Force. I had a grandpa in the Army and an uncle in the Navy. So I was like, well, the best hadn't been taken yet, so I'm going to go that route. And I went and signed up, and that was pretty much the end of that. I went to boot camp in September, and the rest is history. I'm here with you fellas.
Wow. So Fowler, you kind of had some family history involvement that kind of played a role. And then you also had that ultimatum from your father that was like, hey, look, the clock's ticking, dude. You got this amount of time and I want you out of here.
Yeah, it wasn't like I know it's hard to explain. It wasn't like he was being mean about it, but like my pop's always been kind of like a stand on your own 2 feet kind of guy. And so basically he was saying, you're not going to, you can go to college or whatever, but you're not going to sit here and mooch off of me. He actually, whenever I signed up, I still had like 4 months before I had to go to boot camp. So he got me a job out where he was working, and it was an asphalt plant making asphalt. And they put me on like the lowest of the totem poles. I'm out there under conveyor belts shoveling rocks and in the summer heat waiting to go to boot camp. And that was pretty much it. My grandpa, he was actually one of the first paratroopers in the Army up at Currahee Mountain. That show Band of Brothers, he was a part of that.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Tommy. And then just to go back to Brady, I forgot to recap what you said. I mean, basically did you have any family history involvement in the military?
Yeah, both of my grandfathers served in the Army. One was
Okay.
a tanker. One was he just went on, I think, for the 4. And then I had my mother's father. He was a retired sergeant first class in the Army.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've got some family service, cousins, and all that jazz.
Beautiful. So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that all 3 of us have in common so far. Anybody else in the group have any similar kind of family history in the military type thing?
I had grandfathers, no immediate family, but both my grandfathers were in. On my mom's side, he was in the Air Force. On my dad's side, he was a colonel in the Army. And then afterwards, he was actually on the Secret Service, and he was Eisenhower's bodyguard. So he had pretty deep roots in the military and government service.
Now, Jimmy, didn't you say one time something about your last name wasn't like that was a secret name or something?
Yeah,
something
it was
wild like that.
So Grignon came probably three generations ago. My actual, through lineage, my actual last name should be Tessier, but it was changed at some point for some reason. That wasn't specifically because of my grandfather. That was tied to Eisenhower. It was kind of further back in the generations.
Okay.
And then, Greg, now what eventually made you decide, hey, I'm doing this military thing, and this is the route that I want to go? I mean, what led to that exact decision for you?
Like a lot of people, I wasn't ready to grow up, at 18, 19 years old. College wasn't exactly for me at that point in time. Growing up, I always knew that I wanted to be in the military. I'd always thought it was, for some reason, I was going to be an Army Ranger. Went and talked to the Army recruiters. They kind of painted a pretty picture, then walked in next door to the Marine Corps recruiting station. He was like, "You're going to hate it. It's going to be the toughest thing you're ever going to do. You're going to go to war, this and that." And I was like, that's kind of exactly what I need in my life right now. So signed the dotted line, and it was off to the races.
Wow. Thank you for that, Jimmy. Well, that leaves two others. Dominique, Escobar, which one?
Mexican. The last one.
What led you guys to decide to join the military, and then what made you decide that the Marine Corps was the path that you wanted to go on?
I wasn't even ever planning on joining the military, man. Honestly, I freaking growing up, my parents got separated when I was like 11 years old. And I stayed with my dad. My dad's fucking super old school, like strict, like still to this day, like before I got married to my wife, when I brought her to my parents' house, like she couldn't sleep in the same room as me, like that in my dad's house. Like that's how old school kind of strict he was. So growing up through high school and shit, I was fucking crazy, wild. I was always in trouble. Dude, my dad's always, you're like your grandfather, yada, 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 whatever. So I've always been pushed, like, you have to go to college when you get out of high school. My dad was an attorney, so he was very like, just like, hey, you need to go to school this, school that, school this. So I got out of high school and I moved to Denver, and I went to college up there for like, I don't know, maybe a semester and a half for industrial design. And I got into it, and I was like, man, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. So I ended up just going back home, and I just started partying again with all my friends and just going nowhere real fast, So I just had to make a decision, like, yo, what are you going to do with yourself? Are you going to stay here and just fucking, become a local and just, do this and that for the rest of your life? Or like, I wanted to travel the world, and, I'd always been like someone that enjoyed challenges and stuff. So I was like, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do the Marine Corps. And, my family was like, no, go to the Air Force. You can like get a really good job when you get out, and yada, yada, yada. And I was like, no, I was like, if I'm doing it, I'm going to the Marines. Like, that's it. So next thing I know, there I am, walking into the Marine Corps recruiter's office and signing on the line. And I had to stay in the debt program for a while though, because I was doing drinking and smoking weed, and they always busted me. So they made me stay in that shit for a while. But yeah, man, and I ended up getting in, and the best decision I ever made. I don't know where I'd be right now if I wouldn't have joined the military.
Wow. Wow. That's good to hear, Dominique. Thank you for sharing that. So basically you kind of, you gave college a shot. You decided it wasn't really for you at the time. Maybe your focus wasn't there, and you decided that you need some type of direction and guidance. And it sounds like you found it. It sounds like you're glad that you found it.
Yeah, greatest decision I've ever made.
Marine Corps taught you not to drink anymore too, right?
It's legal there, dude. You can just, it's what's it called? It's not frowned upon, let's say, to a certain extent. I feel like when you join the Marine Corps, you join the Marine Corps because of the type of person you are as well. It's like, if you're like someone that didn't like confrontations or being crazy and like, you don't have that little bit of fire in you, dude, you're probably not going to join the Marine Corps. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
We all have that same kind of drive, and like, we're a little off at times, dude. I think that's what makes the Marine Corps great. And you all know from going to boot camp, man, if you're weak, bro, they do their best to just beat you down and get you out,
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up, because I definitely want to get to that in a moment. Thank you so much for that. Mr. Estrada.
Well, I always, since I remember, I wanted to be in the military, and I remember my family always told me that I was going to grow up and it was going to go away, but I never did. It just kept growing on me. Then I got out of high school and got in different jobs. And a lot like Brady, I was 25 when I joined the Marine Corps. I don't know if you guys remember, but it was me and I think Roddenbush, the oldest ones.
Old guys.
Yeah, no, the old guys in the platoon. And it worked out. I think the Marine Corps, besides giving me a career, it opened a lot of doors for me. I think my life wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for the military or the Marine Corps. I'm glad I joined, having the opportunity to join some of the other branches. I decided to go for the Marine Corps just because a lot of people told me that I was old and I wasn't going to be able to make it through boot camp, at my age. So I decided to join the Marine Corps, and, today, 15 years later, here I am, I'm still in some way still serving, and that time in the military and after the military, it completely changed my life and opened a lot of doors. I do not have a background when it comes to my family being in the military, but I know I was the first one. And after me, I have a nephew that now is a sergeant in the Marine Corps and a brother that's a captain, and so I was the first one, but now there's a lot of people behind me, I kind of opened doors for my family to kind of join the military. And that's it, that's pretty much me in the Marine Corps.
Good shit.
Wow.
What rank were you when you got out, Estrada?
How old I was?
What rank?
Gunnery sergeant.
Gunnery.
Still in?
Are you still in or no? Okay.
I know it doesn't look like it because of my hair and beard.
That's no shape shit, dude.
Are you active duty or reserves or what?
I'm reserves. I'm still in the reserves. Yeah. So, but in my current job, we all kind of have this kind of look, it's hard to explain, but
it's a good look, man. It looks good on you.
Porn star, dude.
Good on you. Yeah.
What's up?
And thank you for sharing, brother. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because you and Brady kind of came in a little bit seasoned in life, unlike myself, Fowler, and Jimmy, and Chavez too.
I was 21.
You were okay. Okay, guys.
Seasoned being
Brady's just always looked like he was 50.
It's like I ran into this guy at work today, and he says, I was on with a trainee, and I'm on the car. So I get off, and he says, he starts chit-chatting, And he says, you probably remember this was back in the 70s when we were kids, and this and that. And he starts going off, and I'm thinking, sir, I was born in 1984. Thank you very much. Like, I'm not in my mid-40s. I'm in my mid-30s.
Hey, you look good.
You look younger now than you used to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's just put it this way: the Marine Corps was brutal on me. Oh man, just
I think you were brutal on yourself.
well, there's
in
a
the
lot of
Marine
that
Corps.
too. A lot of that.
Yeah.
I never missed a movement, right? So there you go.
McAvoy,
Yes, sir.
are you wearing pants?
I got shorts on.
Yeah.
I like to stay comfortable.
No, I feel you. Just slide that jacket off. Just slide that jacket off, loosen that tie up.
Right. Hey, thank you for that. Mr. Estrada, I want to get back to you real quick. Hey, how do you think that it would have been, would it have been any different if you'd have joined earlier? What do you think that time span, how did that kind of shift your perspective being a little bit older coming into an organization like this?
I think it was perfect, man. When I was 24, when I kind of went on boot camp and became 25 in the fleet, and but I think for me it was good. A lot of Marines, they start young at 18, 19, and then they get in trouble for underage drinking. I didn't have that problem, and then just remembering back on time and just I can't believe you and me, McAvoy, are friends, man. You were so green those days, man. I just hated the way you act. I don't know if you remember me and you, for many years, even though we deployed together and we're together, we didn't look eye to eye in many things. But now, after all these years, man, you and me are like real close friends. We see each other, and we have a real close relationship.
Yes, sir. I'm very thankful for that too. I agree with you 100%. I mean, there was definitely some learning, some growing pains and some learning experiences, during those years. And I'm sure we could all attest to that in some form or fashion. And, I'm really thankful that you and I have developed a friendship, and, obviously it's strong to this day, man. And, just to be on this call with you guys is really a privilege. When did we first, I wanted to get into this next. When did we all first cross paths?
LS company?
Well, I think we kind of picked you, Brady, and Fowler up right around Katrina.
Yeah.
Me, Chavez, and Estrada came in together.
Yeah,
with a handful of others, and then you guys joined the platoon right before Katrina, and that's kind of where we all got dumped into the same pot and figured out.
You guys are already with the MEU, and when they was asking for volunteers, and me and McAvoy and Brady were like,
that's where we wanted to go.
Doing anything. Yeah, let's go.
We were already on the ship because that's when Brady came up and he had his fucking rifle cards in the washing machine.
That's a fabricated story, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Hey, McAvoy, were you in school with us?
Yeah. Yes, I was. So actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I think I'm jumping a little too fast ahead. I mean, look, we could probably have a 7-hour phone call or video chat, but since we're keeping it chronological already, I say we keep going down that path a little bit because now we have a better understanding what led to each of us joining. And so the next step obviously was recruit training, Marine Corps boot camp, which, for the broad audience out there that doesn't have that type of awareness to what that process was, what did that mean to you? What was that? What did you learn through that process? I mean, the indoctrination process into the Marine Corps, whoever wants to lead that off.
What are you asking?
One of the most mentally challenging things I've ever done, for sure. They tell you when you go, you don't even know what you're about to get into, and you're like, it can't be that bad, dude. I wrestled in high school, played sports, pretty mentally tough, dude. Then you get to boot camp, you're like, fuck, man. It's just it's a whole nother game, dude. Every day they're just trying to break you. Every single day you don't get no breaks. You're just like, all right, here we go again.
You don't ever get into where what's coming next. I mean, certain things, but they keep it. You can build a pattern, you're going to get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Might be 30 seconds long, but those three things are the staples of your day, and that was it. You're going to wake up, you're going to get dressed by the numbers, you're going to go to breakfast, then you're going to do something, who knows what.
Clean rifles.
Once you started to, by the time you're ready to get out, you kind of had to you started getting a grip on it. Like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this. But at that point, you're going to get ready to leave anyway. So for me, it was just, I have no clue what I'm even walking into. Some of you guys probably had people to talk to maybe, or, say, hey, this is what you're going to expect. They didn't do any of that for me, or maybe you didn't either. But I think some of it was just like, I don't even know where. The first 2 days I was there, because I got delayed a day and a half because of a snowstorm in Chicago. I'm up in the airport, and I get there, and I got hair running my initial PFT, and I look like this. Everybody else got no hair, and there's like 5 of us from the Midwest here. And boy, I mean, every drill instructor out there, they're lean, mean Marine people. We don't, know anything of them, and they're just, eyeballing you like crazy. Who are you? This and that, and you're intimidated. It's the biggest change, biggest step of your life. That for me at that point, I wasn't, in my 20s. I was a young man, hadn't ever been exposed to that type of an environment. And I think that through the process, you just get through it if you can, and you don't if you can't. And when you get out and you start reflecting, this is when we're learning exactly what they were teaching us. So they got it all stuck in our heads, and then we were assigned to, leadership in the military and the fleet, who took that information that was locked in our heads from those drill instructors, beating it into you, and show you how to use it. And if you learned how to use it, you went up in ranks. You took leadership positions, and in some cases, we're going to get out of ourselves in that conversation. But in boot camp, you're just being force-fed information, and then you get trained how to use that information down the road. It just develops over time. From my seat, looking back, I know and learned so much more than I had any idea. Some of the things I carry with me as a person now are from those 90 days.
I can tell you this, and I don't know if I'm, speak for the rest of you, but I can remember like getting there that night, and you get on the yellow footprints and they're screaming at you, and you go in and you getting your hair cut and you're getting shots and you're making phone calls home, and it's just like a blur. And then they finally put you in the rack, and I can remember waking up and looking at the ceiling and saying, oh shit, it ain't a dream, this is real. And it's for me, it was like the very first time in my life that I ever felt completely alone. Like nobody there at that point cared about if you made it or not, because the drill instructor's whole job was to make sure you either make it to the end as a Marine or you get out of his Marine Corps.
For our first couple of days, I remember we had a senior drill instructor that took us to meals. And the rest of the time, it was just other kids kind of saying, you guys need to do this and be here. And I don't know where they were getting their guidance from. I didn't know who was in charge until that drop day. And I'm thinking, who's in charge? What am I doing?
We had something similar to that, but our drop day wasn't but for like one day. Like we did that, and then there was he was a senior drill instructor, but he wasn't our senior drill instructor. He just picks that platoon up and holds them, and like he took us to chow and stuff, and was like teaching us how to make our racks. And then by the time we hit the rack and got up in the morning, he marched us over to our barracks and handed us over like the next day, and it was a whirlwind from there.
Yeah. Thank you for that, guys.
Me and McAvoy went at separate times, but we actually had one of the same drill instructors there.
We sure did.
Yeah, Barnwell.
That's right. We could
Greatest human being alive.
Yeah, that's a whole nother, that's a whole nother episode on that guy. Now, so let's get this out the way. So who went to boot camp on the West Coast?
I did.
Okay. And then, so you guys were the only two, and then the rest of us, we went to East Coast. Or Brady, did you go to West Coast?
Yeah,
Brady's West Coast.
Brady's West Coast. Okay. Do the rest of y'all agree on what they've said so far?
Yeah.
The gist of it, man. Sure experience is a little different, but in the end, we all went through the same shit pretty much.
Pretty much. And then so okay, great. So anybody want to add anything to that, or are we good on that? I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's kind of like controlled chaos, you know. I mean, the intention, I feel like, from that process is to put a maximum amount of stress on the individual that's going through the training evolution, and through that maximum amount of stress,
make you perform.
Yeah, you're either able to negotiate certain obstacles or you're not. But they kind of figure out with everybody putting that amount of stress on everybody, who, where everybody's weak points and strong points are for everybody. So they kind of know how to manage everybody from that standpoint. Is that kind of what y'all think about it?
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
brother.
and at the end of the day, Paris Island definitely makes better Marines.
You're here.
Oh,
Here. Cheers to that.
I didn't say that. All right. So I'm not standing on that. I mean, just for the viewer that's not like accustomed to it. There's two different ways to get into the Marine Corps. You can either go East Coast or West Coast, depending upon where you live. It's the same type of process, but there's always that type of rivalry between the two. So obviously we all made it through that process. And then the next step was Marine combat training, which was like a 30, 45-day period, something like that, where they essentially, we essentially learn how to kind of live out in the elements of nature and use the different weapon systems and things like that. What do y'all remember from that time period? Because I remember distinctly, for me, it was a huge eye-opener about how different that was from boot camp. We did boot camp. We got 10 days time off, go have fun with your family, and then you're coming back. When we were coming back, I'm thinking, oh shit, like,
here we go again.
But then when I got there, I'm like, oh man, this is completely different. I mean, what was y'all's mentality during that 10-day time frame, and then coming back in? What was your reaction to what you saw at MCT?
Well, mine was a little different because when I got out, it was December 21st, so they didn't take anybody because like all the other Marines were off on Christmas leave. So I actually got like a 20-day period off. And but one of the things that, like you said, like on the way back, there was a guy that I was in boot camp with that lived in Louisiana, and he drove from Louisiana to Georgia and picked me up in his truck, and then we got in his truck and headed up to the East Coast, and or up towards Camp Lejeune, and but the whole ride there, I was like, man, this is gonna suck, because the only Marine Corps I knew was boot camp.
Yeah.
And so in my head, I was like, can I really do 4 years of this?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, whenever you got there and everybody was kind of more relaxed and, helpful, I guess you would say, like you get out of the truck not knowing where to go. And, some guy's like, oh, yeah, just go over here. You're good. So I was like, oh, okay. And then, but I remember that, like you said, we did the weapon systems training, and then they take you out and I remember digging a foxhole. They teach you to dig a foxhole, and then they teach you like formations to walk, in case somebody throws a frag grenade in, and the distances between each other and all that. But one of the big things that stuck out to me was the night nav course. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
Navigation course.
That's NVGs.
Yeah. Well, so the way they did ours, they gave us a partner, and then a little map of the compass, and you go find these checkpoints. But I remember finding all my checkpoints, me and my guy, and then we got back and we're waiting for everyone else to finish. And here comes this dude with a stick sticking out of his eyeball. He done ran into a tree limb out there, like in the woods, and the stick was like still hanging out of his eyeball. I don't know what happened to him. They brushed him off pretty quick, but I still remember that because I was like, oh shit,
Wow. Yeah. Did y'all feel the same way coming back in, like not knowing what to expect for that combat training cycle?
And it was, I think one of the funniest parts was, I think everybody here is a pretty neat individual for the most part. Some of these cats coming back from their 10 days off, man, they're missing their left shoe. They're wearing tennis shoes and their pickle suits and stuff like that. You know, they got you caged up for 3 months. They send you on for 10 days. You lose your mind, and then they send them back, and then you got to show up there. And so it's kind of funny watching some of them kids walk back in there and
all the ones that refuse to piss in the cup because they did drugs on their 10 days.
You know, they say in boot camp, right, the cream rises to the top, and then, you know, maybe a couple little coffee grounds go with it, and then those coffee grounds get dropped back to the bottom as soon as you show back up to MCT. You know, because they don't have their stuff together. They didn't learn their lesson the first 3 months.
Yeah.
So you're still in a student status, but they're first kind of letting you out into gradually they're releasing you into the fleet and starting you off with that combat fitness type of.
Absolutely. And then just to jump back to Tommy, you were saying you saw a dude with a fucking stick out of his eyeball. Like, you know, that's probably something that you never seen before, right?
Yeah.
Did anybody like up to that point in your career, did anybody else ever experience anybody else having like a traumatic injury or like that? Or did that happen to anybody at that point, up to that point in your career?
No, I mean, just your typical injuries during boot camp or, you know, broken leg or something. But.
Yeah. So everybody was pretty much still healthy up to that point. We didn't see anybody, you know, stick out an eyeball, that's pretty freaking gnarly. And then so after that evolution, because this is our story, this is what we all have in common. So we all had orders to go to Camp Johnson, which is next to Camp Lejeune, right in North Carolina, to attend a course to become basic landing support specialists. I'm gonna throw it over to Greg now. Greg, what did that mean to you? How would you describe that process? What was that all about to you?
Well, I didn't pick that MOS going in. I kind of got placed there because I was colorblind, and I think there's a handful of us that share that commonality. So, you know, whenever I got to the end of boot camp, I thought I had a totally different MOS, and they're like, no, you're going to be an 0481. I was like, what the fuck is an 0481? And lo and behold, I show up on Camp Johnson. There's a bunch of other cats running around who can only see gray and black, just like me. And we're all landing support specialists over there. So it was good. I mean, you know, school was fun. We got to hang out and play underneath helicopters hovering 5 feet above our head. You don't get to do that a whole lot in any other MOS. So, yeah, it was good.
We had good instructors.
Yeah.
We had Brandt and
Ellis.
Yeah, Ellis. Yep.
Did everybody have the same instructors? Did we all have Brandt, Ellis, and Bessel?
Bessel, that was the other one, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, look, this is what I'm thinking. This is off the top, you know, yeah, the drill instructor is great. I mean, you know, great influences. Some of them MCT instructors really great, but man, the guys who really made impressions, you know, I'm sure we can all attest to this, you know, Russell Brandt, I mean, that guy was just on a different level to me. I mean, I don't know if everybody feels the same way.
Yeah, that was the guy with the sleeve tattoos, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Rocking the horseshoe.
Yeah, he was a wild cat, man.
He was.
Hey, Fowler, if you were on Facebook, you could be friends with him.
Ain't that something?
Ain't that something? I ain't trying to persuade you or nothing like that, but
yeah, I don't have the face page.
Hey, look, it's all good. You know, Greg, I'm glad you brought that up because you know those instructor guys. I mean, them guys were top notch. Also, you brought up the colorblind thing. It's actually, you know, what's funny is that actually during the MEPS process, we had to take everybody had to take a color, they call it a color perception test. Am I right? Does everybody remember that? Where you actually look,
lights, the green and red light.
Correct. You're looking at a page. I'm taking notes, by the way. It's got dots on it, and you got to look at it, and it's got different colors, and you got to read the number that comes out, right?
Right.
I couldn't read the fucking number. I mean,
Yeah, I failed 14 out of 15 of those.
yeah.
Impressive.
Did y'all,
So in a way, you overachieved at failing.
I was almost perfect.
See?
did all you guys fail at that?
No.
You didn't- you
No,
guys-
my drill instructor, the same thing with Jimmy. Like, he got towards the end of boot camp, and then he come up and he said, "I'm going to call out your MOS. If there's something wrong, you need to let me know." And I was supposed to be what was the guys that packed the parachutes and jumped out of the planes and stuff?
Anglico.
You signed up to play in the band.
They
Air
told me-
delivery.
Yeah, I was going to be a tuba player.
Yeah, that's right.
But I had signed up to be what was it, Brady?
Air
you and me were signed up to be Anglico,
Yeah, there you go.
and when we got out, because where were we going? Fort something, Georgia, Fort Benning.
Yep.
Go to Fort
And
Benning.
and the
Jump
drill instructor
school.
said 0481 landing support specialist, and I said, "Sir, no sir." And he said, "Well, the Marine Corps needs a landing support specialist. Congratulations," and walked off.
Pretty much.
So I was like,
There's that.
"All right."
Oh, jeez. I love it. Unbelievable. Did anybody else pick their MOS before they joined?
Did anybody pick 0481?
Yeah, did anybody pick that?
No.
I
No,
signed up. I signed up to be communications, and then at MEPS, I failed that color perception test. And they're like, "Look, we can't give you communications. Do you want to pick something else?" I'm like, "I'm not choosing here. Like, I'm gonna go do some research and come, and then that's when I decided on a logistic 0480. Logistics sounded legit. I mean, I talked to the recruiters. They were like, you can't do this, this, and this, but you can do this, this, and this. I'm like, okay. But did anybody else pick logistics going in?
I did logistics.
Okay.
So I just opened whatever it was open for logistics.
0400.
For 81.
Okay.
You go for 0400, I think.
Yeah.
And they just put you where they need you.
Yeah.
And then they just.
Yeah.
So I mean, really, we was a band of misfits to start with.
Sounds like it. Sounds like that's pretty funny. Now, so we
Most badass, but
So we all went from, and this is like 2005 for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mid 2005. So okay, so let's back. So mid 2005, we've been through the recruiters all, we've been through the MEPS process, we've been through boot camp, we've been through combat training, and now we've been through our specialty school. What's the next step after the specialty school?
Get ditched out to a base. You could either go to Okinawa, California, Camp Lejeune. There's some.
So
other
our
places.
class, we all, me, Chavez, Estrada, and you can tell by the names, I'm the only white boy that came over with these guys. It was Chavez, Estrada, Lopez, Miramontes, and Grignon. We all said we wanted to go to California, but we were a bunch of misfits and got in a lot of trouble when we were in school. So they took everybody who wanted to go to California, they put them in North Carolina, and everybody who wanted to go to North Carolina, they put out in California.
Did anybody else choose? Well, yeah, who chose to be in Camp Lejeune? Anybody?
yeah, it was closer to Georgia, so I decided to stay on the East Coast.
Yeah, Dominique and Astrubal, you guys obviously chose West Coast. You didn't get it.
Mhm.
How did y'all feel at that time once you learned that you were going to have to be on the East Coast? What was going through y'all's minds at that point?
Nothing, man. It sucked.
I think I was upset first because I was like, they're screwing us,
But then we found the driftwood and everything was okay.
That's right.
Man, I mean,
That's right.
I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, shit, just to paint the scene for, those who aren't familiar with what we're talking about. I mean, we were all stationed at a Marine Corps military base on the coast of North Carolina with not too much else around. I mean, there was a small town that was kind of built around this huge base that's still there today, obviously. what's unique about this base is that right out of the front gate, the entrance to this base, there's a highway, and I've read this somewhere in some article that's actually the most concentrated place in the world for tattoos, bars, and strip clubs. Like for those three establishments, there's no more highly concentrated place in, like, at least in America for that. I mean,
Oh yeah, you could go to the grocery store, get a tattoo, and see some titties all in like the same block.
yeah. So I mean, that being said, this is where we were. This is where we were during this time.
At 19 and 20, mind you, like we're still kids.
This is where dreams begin to come true.
Yes.
You could go do your laundry and drink beers at Duds and Suds, if you remember that place.
Yeah. And then there was the haircut joint where the chicks wore bikinis.
Uh-huh. I don't remember that place. What the hell was that?
Yeah, that's what I found myself.
Yeah, I didn't tell y'all about
That one.
So I don't know if that was a good idea bringing that fun fact up, but what I'm trying to do is just kind of paint the scene for the viewer and the listener. So this is where we were. This is who we were, and it just so happens that this was at a very.
I'll be right back. I got to get a dip.
Got you. This was at kind of like some events were happening in the world. Obviously, we're gonna get into that. I know that. Well, let's take it. So after the schoolhouse, we all came to the same company, right? Landing support company. Who was talking about? Yeah. Who can paint that scene? How would you describe landing support company? Coming from a schoolhouse where you trained to what we call the fleet. I mean, how would you describe that experience?
So I roll into the quad. Where I don't even remember the building number.
Hold on, Brady. Hold on. Before going to Alice Company, I got a memory from I think it was Grignon and Chavez that we end up in that. It wasn't 96. It was 102.
Ended up where? Where'd we?
We were at receiving.
Building. Yeah, before going to the company, we ended up in a holding area, like for 96 or something like that.
Yeah.
Remember that? And then
we got there. No one was on fucking sign us in. We had to go stay at that little barracks. It was nice barracks.
Yep.
Yeah. So we ended up in Surf City. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, we rented a car. That's right. Yeah, Estrada rented a car because I tried to rent a car, and they're like, no, you're not 21. We're not going to rent to you. And so Estrada, that's where your age came into play again and played to our benefit. He rented a car. We went rolling down to Surf City and blew it out. That's right.
So I rolled into the LS barracks with Fowler and McAvoy.
Yes. So
we got a room together.
So we left the schoolhouse. We came to this. We were stationed on a big base, and at this time, so we went to a building and a unit that consisted of nobody's really a part of a unit that's doing stuff. It's just kind of how would you describe it?
It's the farm. It's the farm. It's where all the operational units pull Marines from for the logistics function.
Okay.
So you come from school, you get put in the refrigerator for a little bit, keep you on ice. When somebody needs you, they say, who wants to go? You shoot your hand up in the air. If you're worth, your weight in salt, odds are they're going to send you.
Yeah.
So we roll into that place.
Yeah.
I don't remember what day it was. Doesn't really matter, but we got our little room keys, and the first person come bust. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because we talked about this last week. Basically, I mean, it was a place where people that just got back from overseas deployments to Iraq primarily, they just came back. They're ready to either get out, they're ready to leave the military completely or go to another unit. And then there was guys like us who are just fresh out of the training, who are in the same unit as these guys. And so there was a wide array of characters at this place. And then Brady, you can take it from there.
Yeah, it's a transitional unit. People going through transition from whatever phase of their careers or their time in the service is traveling to or from a unit or getting assigned to a location. They're going to transit through this company.
And who was the first character you came across?
So the first character I come across is a guy that's got a Purple Heart, strong buzz, and he's drinking. And you're in a quad. We call them the quad, right? So these barracks or these kind of like dorms. There are 4 walls built around a center grass area. It's got picnic tables and grills and things like that. Nothing fancy. Like your park grill, it's cemented into the ground, indestructible because you got animals living in there. The picnic tables got cigarette burns on them and grills. You're walking into this college dorm where men hold rifle cards. And you got this Purple Heart vet who's drunk, who comes just blasting in the door, acting like, he's known us for 5 years. He's, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Where do you come from? This.
Oh, yeah, I remember this. Yeah. We was unpacking.
And he's a corporal, and we're all either privates or PFC, private first classes, your entry-level ranks. You got this corporal Purple Heart dude rolling around that you start saying, who's that? Oh, that's so-and-so. And, he grills us for a few minutes, wants to befriend us and all this, and we're just trying to get unpacked and figure out, what our purpose is in life at that point. So then you're still with a fair amount of uncertainty, I think, for a little while as to what you're doing, where you're going. I think we were all anxious. I know for us 3, anxious to get into a MU, deployable unit.
Yeah. So that being said, we just arrived to this place. Chavez, Grignon, and Estrada, you guys were already part of a Marine unit that was preparing to go overseas for some missions. Am I correct in that?
That's right.
How did you guys become a part of that unit? By the way, that unit is called the 24th MU. It's a Marine Expeditionary Unit. What was y'all's first experiences coming out of the schoolhouse, going into the fleet, and then going into the 24th MU? How did that work out for you guys?
When we got there, it was still the MSSG, remember? The Super G.
Yeah.
And then, I remember freaking, I think Staff Sergeant Brammer was the one that told us that it was being changed and, no longer call it MSSG, now it's a MU.
Yeah.
He was like, what? It's still the same thing, but now it's a MU.
MSSG went to FSSG, so they just changed some.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So at this point, and then so here's what's unique about the story. Here's where the story starts to kind of take some turns and kind of get interesting a little, kicking it up a notch, is that it just so happens at this point in time, there was a natural disaster of Hurricane Katrina hitting Louisiana, right? And it just so happens that this unit had the capabilities to evacuate people from danger. And also, anyway, they got y'all. So y'all were part of the unit that got orders to go down there for a relief effort, and they needed more bodies. And me, Brady, and Fowler, we were like, hey,
Just so happened they needed 3 more people.
They just so happened they needed 3 more people. And at that point, that's how we all came together. Pretty much.
Yeah. Me and Jimmy became friends, kind of like baptism by fire.
How is that? Yeah. How did so let's talk about this. So we already had a bond. Them guys already had a bond. Let's talk about the first time we interacted with each other. You and Grignon, how did that turn out?
So we were down there for a while, and I think when we got down there, we split up and then got back together again, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right on that?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, because I came in, I landed in Biloxi. I floated down there.
That's right.
I think a lot of you guys flew down there, or drove down there. You probably drove down there in a convoy, right?
Yeah. We floated. Me and Brady and McAvoy floated, I'm pretty sure. But
Yeah.
you did get off somewhere else that we got off.
Yeah, we
but
all floated down and then did convoys into actually.
That's right.
We got
That's
off.
right.
We all got off in Biloxi, right there by the Hard Rock Casino.
The floating boat.
Yeah, and then we all convoyed into different areas because we were doing like.
Then we split up.
Some of us was cutting trees out of roads. Some of us was checking houses.
Right. But we all eventually ended up at that NASA base.
We all ended up at the NASA base and
did just a big cleanup there, I think. Just getting everything cleaned up on that big base.
Well,
so that circles back to Fowler's story right there.
Yeah, so we're all back at the NASA base, and again, me and Jimmy know we're a part of the same unit, but I wouldn't say that we were homies at this point. Like we're just Marines that would help each other. I won't say the guy's name because it could be embarrassing, but there was another guy in the unit, and that night, if I'm not mistaken, the master sergeant allowed us to have some beers.
They dropped off a pallet of beers.
Yeah. So basically they're saying, hey, you guys have done a good job. We're going to let you have this little break. So they let everybody have some beers, and, some guys snuck more beers than they should have. So we'll fast forward to the night, and here I am sleeping on my cot, and I feel something that feels like the roof's leaking. And so I wake up and I'm looking down, I still got sleep in my eyes, and what the hell is going on? And I look around, and the guy on the cot next to me, he's like propped up on his elbow, and he's
not even next to you. There's someone in between.
Oh yeah. There's a guy in between us, and the guy next to him was propped up on his elbow, laying sideways on his cot, and he's pinching the head of his dick. And then he'll like let it go, and he shoots piss over it, and it hits my cot. So I slide out, and I walk over to him, and I'm like, "Hey, John Smith, what the hell, man?" And this guy is so drunk, like he didn't even know where he's at. And he's like, it's all right. They said it's okay. I can do this. I can do this. And I was like, listen, man, you're pissing on my stuff. And he outranked me, so I'm still trying to use like some type of tact, And again, he releases the pressure valve and shoots piss over onto my cot. And so I said, listen, Mr. Smith, you piss on my cot again, and I'm gonna lay you out. And he's like, I'm telling you, they said it's okay. And he did it again. So I laid him out, and he just hit the cot and started snoring. So then I'm faced with a piss-soaked cot, My sleeping bag is soaked in piss and everything. So I just pull it off my cot. Luckily, none of it made it to the actual cot. So I start going around, and like the first person I seen was Jimmy.
No, you asked Brady first.
I did ask Brady.
You go, Brady, can I get your poncho liner? And how I remember it is Brady looked at you and goes, if you don't get the fuck away from me, Fowler, something exactly really right. And Brady was going to happen.
Now, mind you, at this point, McAvoy and Brady are my two best friends in the world. Those are the only cats I know. So I go to this best friend and ask for a poncho liner and explain the situation, and he tells me if I don't get the fuck away from him, bad things will happen. So I go to Jimmy because I seen him wiggling around, and I said, Jimmy, I explained the situation. I need a poncho liner. He's like, yeah, take it. So I took it and I covered up. Well, the next morning I wake up to Jimmy raising hell about somebody stealing his poncho liner, and he was fit to be tied, ready to beat somebody's ass. So I quickly took the poncho liner back in fear that my ass was going to get whipped, and explained it again to him. But then he got a pretty big laugh out of it. But it all literally came out in the wash. The guy apologized to me and washed all my stuff, and so it came out. But yeah, that's how me and Jimmy. It was baptism by fire. Like he's pretty upset that next morning about somebody stealing his shit.
Good old Katrina.
Good old Katrina.
I know, like a funny story, like a side note to that. I don't know if I told you guys when we went camping or not, but the XO at one of the units I was at later on when I was like a staff sergeant, he was one of the lieutenants that was with us when we went to Katrina. And he was like, yeah, I remember that. He was like, I was with you guys. And he said that NASA base, that was never planned. Like they went on helicopters looking for like spots for us to chill at. And he said when they landed the helicopter on the NASA base, they got rushed by the security team, like fucking guns drawn on, all surrounded the Marine Corps helicopter, dude, was ready to like start blasting.
Really?
And freaking, that's how they ended up walking on the NASA base. They got off, like, hey man, we're Marines, like we're just looking for some place to set up all our stuff, you know. And they ended up going in there, and that's how we ended up staying at that NASA base. Kind
That's
of
pretty
crazy.
sweet. Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
I'm glad you guys are bringing up all these stories. I mean, you know, just to kind of paint the scene a little bit. So we were like, this unit was attached to Navy ships. Like that's how we were transported to different places in the world. That's how we got down to Hurricane Katrina relief by way of the Gulf of Mexico. That's where we offloaded and did a ship. That was basically our first ship to shore experience, essentially, was loading the gear on these LCACs, these hovercrafts that were designed to travel from these big Navy ships to a beach landing, and then from there transport all the gear, equipment, and people to wherever they're going, which was New Orleans, essentially. And during that time, and it sounds like the command rather was kind of playing it by ear as we were going, seeing where do we fit in, essentially. Is that kind of, do y'all have the same kind of consensus?
Yeah, but that's, I think, generally sometimes what we do, right? As an expeditionary unit.
Yeah.
Right. We pop in somewhere where they need us. We find a place to stay.
We had to go back to
and we take it over.
Yeah. Because there was also Slidell.
We had to go to Alabama. Remember that shit?
You know,
They took us out of Louisiana and drove us to Alabama because another hurricane was supposed to hit, but it never did. And we stayed at that base for like a night. It was like Air Force Base or something.
mm-hmm.
I remember packing up some gear out. I feel like it was on a flight line or something, but we were putting nets on some gear, and I think that we were catching like the tail end of that hurricane, like whipping around us. But I can clearly remember, I'm pretty sure it was all of us out there, like trying to strap this gear down, and it's just like hailing rain on us and blowing our shit off.
Yeah. Now, I gotta say, hey, Estrada, I think we've spoke about this before. What do you think our purpose really was down there? Because I think you and I spoke a little bit about this. Do you think there was any other alternative reasons why we were there?
Yes.
Should we save that for another time, or maybe off the record?
Nah, go for it, man. Go down the rabbit hole. Get off the script.
And then another thing is that, I mean, I remember that actually, Struble, you and me had some confrontation there as well.
Trying to beat your ass, man.
Oh man, come on now. Well, I mean, that's kind of where we first kind of had some friction a little bit, I would say. You know, but I had friction with a lot of guys in the unit. I feel like at that point in time, obviously. Yeah, do we want to get into that, or do we want to kind of say that for another time? I'm talking about
Go for it.
I'm talking about the Mew.
Go for it.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, look. You know, we.
You need to get something off your chest. You good?
Maybe it sounds like it, huh? But I'm just thinking, like, look, we were all so through this experience, we were all rewarded a medal for humanitarian assistance, right? Do you feel like you earned it? Do you feel like it was warranted? Do you feel like that humanitarian assistance is another word for something else? I mean, that's just it's a question. Anybody?
Well, I mean, I feel like we earned it. Well, I mean, one thing that I can remember is that we were checking, Brady could probably vouch for me, but we were checking rifles out before we got there and had a briefing about because on our way down there, they were still having the rioting. And so I remember going and they're talking about checking your rifles out of the armory, and, you know, if you can't fire on an American citizen, you need to let us know. But before we got there, they put
rounds too. They issued everybody rounds as well. Remember?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I can't remember,
I think
but we had like a nice little.
whenever
Oh,
you have
yeah.
unrest in a region of the country, I think that, part of the purpose of having a MAGTF unit, right, Marine Air Ground Task Force, we're multifaceted, self-sustaining, operating unit that can sustain itself for up to 30 days without any replenishments. If you want to settle chaos and create order in a region of our country, you just drop 500 Marines in the area, and that's going to quell some of that rioting, and it's going to back up the police force. It's going to open the roads so that the emergency providers and things can get relief to the people that need it. We're not the heroes of the day. We're the guys in the back opening the roads up, getting people moving again, and creating that like a force field almost. Like, they did just move a Marine Corps unit into the NASA base over here. So, if you got caught misbehaving in our area, sure, you or I saw somebody doing something that was unethical or illegal or something, we're going to stop it. I don't remember the looting and stuff really lingering very long.
No, it shut down whenever word got out that there was a Marine Corps unit on its way.
Yeah, as soon as we landed, at least in Biloxi, we came in on LCUs, and the minute we got off those LCUs, the flak jackets came off, the Kevlars came off, and then we dropped the rifles and picked up chainsaws. Everybody dispersed, and immediately it turned over to a humanitarian cleanup type of mission.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think there was definitely some questions maybe in other people's minds that, if we do go down there, is, how bad is it really with the looting and stuff? But we didn't drop into, inner city New Orleans.
Right.
We landed on the beach and worked our way in. And like I said, opened up roads and things like that. And I remember hearing stories from other fellows of their interactions with people that lived there and had stayed and did survive and things like that. So, but, there's massive devastation everywhere. And to provide that little bit of support in the food and the water and the medications and the staff that we brought on, into that region, that definitely, I think, brought some order back to people in a sense, and maybe unbeknownst to us, that was taking place.
Do you guys remember when we landed? There was that church that was had been leveled. It was just like a concrete slab, but there were still people lighting candles and stuff on the step. Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
I remember a lot of destruction.
Yeah.
I remember miles and miles and miles and miles of riding in a big up-armored 7-ton truck as an assistant driver with Georgia hand, for the most part. And I just remember seeing just destruction, just like you said, level. I remember just everything being leveled. Pretty much just jacked up.
Houses and campers and motorhomes, upside down, and cars and trees. It was. You've seen the pictures. People have seen pictures.
I can remember seeing like a brand new dually truck with stickers, from the lot still on the window in a river.
Oh yeah. Oh man, do y'all remember passing the freaking, what was that? It's like an amusement park, like a Six Flags. And I'll never forget this for the rest of my life. I seen the roller coasters going down into the water.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. So that was our first experience together as a unit. That was our first experience together as a unit. And there was definitely some friction. There was definitely some, it was a learning process for everybody, I feel like.
What was the friction?
Everybody's kind of jockeying for their place, in that platoon, or, in that.
I don't think Brady ever stopped jockeying.
You got some shit back NCOs, that's why.
Yeah.
Just stand on the shoulders of great men like you, Fowler.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you told me to fuck off. I had to find somebody to take me under the wing.
Yeah, you weren't messing with me.
And also, we got to remember that at this point, in this unit, we were the bottom guys. We were the guys at the bottom. The other, I can't remember if most of the NCOs had a deployment experience.
They'd all just gotten back. They were not assembling a MEU when we got to LS Company. When we went to the MEU, they were getting ready to kind of flush and then stand the MEU back up.
Yeah.
And then get into a 6-month workup and then a 6-month deployment.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we had a number of people who had just been back from Iraq for their second or third trip. You know, Sergeant Huffman, Sergeant Anderson.
Myth.
Wow.
There's some others. So yeah, we got exposed to some people who had traveled the world and seen, you know, everything that we, I would say, aspired to.
Yeah, I would say so too. I would say so too. Being in that role, being in that. I mean, yeah. Do we want to get into that anymore? Anybody got anything to add to that?
I will add this.
Yeah.
There are a couple of individuals that I still remember. I can still see their faces. I can't hear their exact words, but, you know, you can still hear that, just the leadership coming from those fellas. You knew, you know, Sergeant Anderson from Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Skinny little dude.
Yeah.
You know, bowed down cover, and, you know, he was a rock solid Marine, and you knew it. Then you had Sergeant Huffman, you know, big guy, big, tall, you know, Marine, you know what I'm saying? Sergeant. Just that point in your career, you're like, wow, look at that guy. You know, for me, it was, you know, definitely looked up to those types of people. And then, you know, you get to spend a little bit of time with them, and they weren't that fleet, ground and pound you. Maybe not then. You know, then we got into that pecking order with, you know, when the Mew did stand up, and that's down the road, but of who was in charge. And I think, was it when Rubio came in and
yeah.
Right. So,
man, we all know Rubio. We all love Rubio. I mean, we got to get. I mean, look, this could be the first of many calls if we want to do it. You know, what I mean, would love to get an interview with him too, man. I mean, he was a really, really good, genuine guy. All them, I got respect for all them guys. I mean, I actually had a picture of all us as a platoon. I'll have to pull it up and kind of for us to take a look at it. But yeah, I mean, that's what I remember most is the guys, man. I mean, just a top-notch group of individuals, man. I mean, just you guys on this call, man. I've learned so much from each of you. I mean, there's so many pages that I've taken out of each of y'all's book, man. It's just such a great thing to be catching up with you guys.
Likewise.
Yeah. So from there, we went back to Lejeune, right? And then we started the training process. But Estrada, did you want to add anything to the humanitarian thing, or we good on that?
No, I think they cover everything.
There. Okay.
Yeah. You know my feelings on that. No.
I really think we need to touch on that friction. That friction area. What happened?
No.
No.
Are we catching Joey speechless?
Look, man. Look, I mean, let's look. Let's not pretend like I didn't.
Because
let's put this on. Let's not pretend like I didn't have the best attitude at that time. You know, to say the least. You know, so so that kind of rubbed people the wrong way, probably as it should. You know, because those were growing pains, and you know, during those time frames.
Yeah, because I got to witness a lot of your attitude living with you and Brady. You know.
Oh yeah.
You guys. You and Brady go together like oil and water.
Likewise, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. But man,
like when he spit on your gear.
Yeah, we can get into that if we want to. You know, I mean, you want to tell that? That's a good one.
It was always fun for me because I had a bunk by myself, so I just felt like a fly on the wall all the time, just watching you guys.
No, because you told me that story last week on the phone. I think we should do that again because that was good. What do you remember from
here's
that?
Here's what I want. I want you to tell it from your point of view. and then maybe I can fill in some details that I saw.
Oh man, I just feel like if we like, I want to. I just feel like we I mean, we could be here for days talking about those types of stories. I kind of want to keep while we're on the line now. I kind of want to keep going through this chronological thing because this is very valuable for me because it's like, okay, did y'all see what I saw? You know, did we it's kind of like
keep on rocking down that timeline, McAvoy.
Yeah, let's do it. But thank you for all the contributions so far from everybody. Let's see. So look, that was our introduction to each other. That was our introduction to actually having a job and a purpose in this organization, right? And then after that humanitarian thing, we packed up everything. I went back to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and then we started training for a deployment, which was scheduled. It was scheduled to be a 6-month-long deployment. Us going on Navy ships, going overseas, doing X, Y, Z. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what do you guys remember from that training? It was a 6-month training evolution. Am I correct? To get us prepared. To get us prepared to go overseas. Am I right about that?
That's correct.
Okay. And then, yeah. So what do y'all remember about those times, about that 6-month training period?
The first thing I want to bring up is AP Hill.
Yeah, that place was hell on earth.
Let's start with.
I'm thinking that the training exercise portion should be episode 2. Because there's a lot. I mean, you're talking, we've just covered an hour and a half of just coming in and getting through school and going out into a relief. Now you're going to talk about 6 months of one-on-one time, baby, 30 days.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, we can, what did you guys get out of that training? I mean, what was your main takeaways? What was your, what was going through your mind during those times?
Here's the thing. Like you said, this could be one of many calls. So I'm thinking we need to go back to Estrada's, and if he wants to talk about AP Hill, let's just talk about AP Hill.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
No, and that's not that I want to talk about AP Hill, but I think that's one of the, when it comes to the training, I do remember AP Hill a lot. I think that was our first training exercise. It was cold for me coming from Southern California. It was miserable. It was
for
cold.
Anybody. It was freezing.
I'm from Michigan, and it was the coldest shower I've taken to date. Is held record in Fort AP Hill, Virginia. It was cold, man.
And then that, I don't want to say names just because those people are not here, but we had that problem between junior Marine, one of our junior Marines, one of our friends, with one of the NCOs. And we were in the middle of the night digging a fighting hole, filling out sandbags with mud. Nobody remembers that?
Oh, yeah.
There were a lot of sandbags that were filled in AP Hill.
I think what made the NCOs more mad, though, is that they couldn't get our spirits down.
Oh yeah, we had a good time doing anything. If it was,
I think if I remember correctly, Jimmy just started like singing like railroad songs, and we just all joined in with him as we're filling sandbags.
Yep, keep that spirit going, baby.
We went back to AP Hill, didn't we, or was it somewhere else?
Fort Pickett.
Fort Pickett. That's right.
Yeah, I can remember waking up at AP Hill and like you would sit up and there'd be like you could hear your sleeping bag crunching because of ice on it.
Yep.
Not to get sidetracked, Brady. It says your battery's going to die. Are you good on battery power?
Nope.
I just got like an alert or something.
Yeah.
Are you good?
I got 28 minutes.
28 minutes. Okay. You don't have a power source?
Yeah, I do upstairs.
Okay. Got you. Okay. So, this was like cold weather training, like indirectly, like it probably wasn't supposed to be all that in a bag of chips, but that's what it turned out to be. Some definitely challenging scenarios for us. And Fowler, I like what you said. Hey, they couldn't get our spirits down, man. It's like, these guys, now granted, look, man, these guys put in time overseas that we did not, obviously.
But again, we were the new ones coming in, like that, like. I think all those other guys knew that when that particular deployment was over, that they'd be handing this gauntlet over to us, So I would say that AP Hill's probably whenever we all just kind of came together and became that, what you see here, like friends forever. You know what I mean? Like I think at that point we kind of knew like we're the guys. And there was like, we were in separate tents too. So I also feel like maybe there was like that whole, we have to stick together against the other ones type deal.
Mhm.
So like if they punish us, we just stick together and we take it up for everyone.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 I mean, we could go into it a lot more, I think, but I think that's a good amount. I mean, yeah. I mean, basically, I mean, look, it was a group of guys. Half the guys were us, brand new guys coming in. The other half were guys that have already done X, Y, Z, right? And
They already had their brotherhood formed.
they already had right. And then, and in this type of culture, in this type of organization, you're going to have that, how would you describe like the mentality of being you're a boot and then you're this and then you're, I mean, how would you describe that dynamic?
It's not your, it's where you kind of show what you're worth to the platoon. Show what you're worth to the unit. It's your proving grounds.
Your proving ground.
Training exercise. You're going to go out there. Your NCOs are watching you to see which one of you is the leader of the group.
Mm-hmm.
Who's one of you is the follower. Who's going to take? Who's the? They're learning about you just as much as you're learning about them and yourselves and your newfound friends. Whatever.
I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. It's the proving grounds for a boot Marine. And of course, it's just a training exercise, but, train like you fight, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're spending 24 hours together with each other. It's like we're going to find out everything about everybody, so that's kind of a unique part of, the bond that we have and the understanding that we have of each other and our strengths and weaknesses too. So
the days were the ELO days were some of the funnest days that I had in the Marine Corps. All the shit details that we had. I mean, that's kind of where that bond and that brotherhood come from, right? So
yeah,
it is, man. And like Estrada, Brady too could tell you, like, dude, the higher up in rank you get, the more lonelier it is, man.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have all those friends with you all the time, dude. You're just like, you have like the platoon chief or the section chief for each section, and like there's like 6 of you guys, and you're the staff sergeants, and there's like a couple gunnies in there, company gunny, and the first sergeant, but you don't have a group of like young guys that you go out there and you're in the shop getting dirty with, and going out like from the barracks at night. You're grown up and you have to like set the example now, and you're doing things that you like wouldn't do normally.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Camaraderie kind of dissipates a little bit.
You're like a gunny, right, Estrada?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you have friends, but they're not right there in the same unit, like a group. There's not a group of gunnies at the unit that, you're all like buddies and shit.
No, you go to the unit and you got like, 2, 3 gunnies, and
you might not even like one of them or 2 of them or both of them.
You should, if there's 3, you probably talk to one of them,
Yeah.
And that's the way it is, man. You got friends and people you hang out with, but usually it's like people that from other units, But it is.
Yeah, that's another thing. Even when we weren't deployed and stuff, I think that we were all together. Like you were the new family, you know what I mean? You didn't have some guys wasn't able to go home for Christmases and Thanksgivings and stuff. So you just go to your brother's house. You just go to, and at that time, I think it was Jimmy and Chavez's house. And then I had a little apartment. I think Strada, you had a little apartment at the time. But most of the time we partied at like Jimmy or Chavez's house. And it was like from Friday when you got off of work till Sunday, and you had to get ready to go back to work, we were together. And then we went to work and we were together. So, it's just a constant family,
I still have some great DVDs of some of those parties at Countrywood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think we lost Brady. I think his damn battery ran out or something. So I'm going to send him the link again to see if he can.
23 minutes went pretty quick.
Yeah. Right. Man, I'm glad you brought that up, bro, because, we like literally spent 24 hours together. Even when we were off, we were spending time with each other, growing and developing and learning and changing in our own personal lives. And we were, spending time in certain types of establishments with certain types of people, and but we were all together for the most part, anyways. Yeah.
I remember that sweet Cadillac you bought.
I do remember that too. That was after deployment.
Yeah. What'd you do with that thing?
Sold it. We can get into that too. But yeah, damn, we lost freaking Brady, dude. I feel like we're naked now. Shit. What do y'all want to do? Y'all want to keep it going? Y'all want to do a part 2 sometime?
I mean, yeah, I definitely think we should do a part 2. But
Let's do part 2, man.
Do you think it's a good point to kind of wrap it up?
Yeah, that's good, man. There's a lot. We could say, like you said, we could say it for a week, dude.
We could, but look how much we've covered so far, dude. We've covered from 0 to, hey, we're ready to fucking get on these ships and disappear for 6 months. I don't even know where the fuck we're going, really. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, we went from there to there. I mean, look, if we jump on a call, is this relatively a good time for y'all to jump on a call like this time, like 5 p.m. West Coast, 8 p.m. East Coast? Is this good for you guys?
Yeah.
I mean, we set it up pretty successful. I'll create another meeting. Y'all want to do it like next week or something?
No,
yeah, maybe next week.
How about next Tuesday? Y'all want to try? Do y'all want to shoot for next Tuesday? Same time?
That should be good. Just let us know like closer to time, and I'll let you know what we're doing.
I'm out on Tuesday. Any other day works for me, though.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to keep it going. I mean, we got everybody here. Brady dropped off, obviously, but it's a lot of time, a lot of energy that we're
You gonna wear a suit next time?
Oh yeah.
Keep it fresh. Just slide that jacket off real quick.
Oh yeah. Well, it's actually I actually got the damn bathfitter shit on, so I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, brother.
Fresh.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm gonna stop us recording so we can just talk shit now for one.
Fowler, are you gonna put your blues on for the next one?
Bro, do you think I couldn't fit my titty in my blues?
Do y'all like how the format is? How we're kind of like going through
Mine says it's recording.
Oh yeah, it's still recording. I'm gonna edit it up anyway. It's not live.
Okay.
Are y'all? But it sounds like everybody's comfortable with the subjects. How